Welcome back to Men Eat Stuff. I am Todd, and this is my third episode. I created this channel and I named it Men Eat Stuff, which I don't mean to exclude women, but I started this because I got divorced last year and I now cook for myself and only myself. But I try to eat healthy and I try to make foods that I like to eat that taste good. And in some cases, I'm hoping to help other guys that might be in the same spot. Women might be in the same spot, but I feel like guys are the ones that really need the help with cooking. So in some of my previous episodes, I showed you a dish that I cooked. Today, I actually want to just do one single dish. And the reason I want to do it is because when you go to steakhouses and high-end restaurants and you order a steak, a lot of times these steaks or your chops, it could be pork chops. A lot of times they're a la carte, and you have to order your sides. Your sides might be mashed potatoes or baked potatoes, and your vegetables as well. And in a lot of these higher-end steakhouses, some of the vegetables are Brussels sprouts or asparagus, things that people don't typically make on a regular basis. Now, some people say they don't like Brussels sprouts or asparagus. I get it. Asparagus can actually smell a little bit. Brussels sprouts can smell a little bit, and some people just don't like the taste. Now, I will say that most women I've talked to, they're actually very impressed when I say I can cook Brussels sprouts or even asparagus. But one of the things I think is misleading is a lot of people think that making Brussels sprouts is really difficult, and it's actually not that difficult. So today I'm going to show you very quickly, very easily, how to make Brussels sprouts. So I go to a market called Woodman's down the street. It's actually a very big grocery store, but Woodman's has organic Brussels sprouts there. I try to buy things organic. So in this case, I guess I'm giving a little bit of a free ad to Woodman's by saying they've got a pretty good organic section for vegetables. So when I walk in there, I can find organic asparagus. I can find organic Brussels sprouts, potatoes, and other things. Anyway, one of the things about Brussels sprouts is that it's basically like a baby cabbage. If you look at one of these, you'd say, well, if that thing was 3 or 4 times as big as it is, you actually might think that that is a cabbage. So it's basically a baby cabbage. So one of the things about it is basically getting it ready to cook. And one of the things I think is very important is when you look at the Brussels sprouts, there's a couple layers that are dirty, or you can tell that maybe insects got to it. It sounds gross, but if you peel a couple layers away, you're actually going to get to the heart of it where it's very clean, and there's obviously no signs on the inner part of it of insects. So I'm going to show you how to clean it, get it ready, and how I cook it. And one of the things that you want for the outcome is you actually want the Brussels sprouts to be a little bit crispy. You don't want it to be too soft or pliable. You want it actually a little crispy. That's the best way to have an outcome for Brussels sprouts. So as we walk through this, I'm going to show you how I prepare this, how I cook it, and how I finish it off. There's probably a couple different types of recipes and options you have for making Brussels sprouts. I'm going to do this fairly easy. I'm going to tell you that really there's only 3 ingredients in the Brussels sprout recipe that I make, plus any oil that you might need when it comes to sauteing. So I like to use organic avocado oil. This is something that I get from Costco, but avocado oil has a very high, I guess you'd say, boiling point or burning point, so you can actually saute and not worry about the oil itself burning. The only other ingredients besides the package of Brussels sprouts are, and this is very optional, I add in pine nuts. So you've got, and you can crush them, or you can just have, the pine nuts are pretty small. So I add that in during the saute process. So then I've got my Brussels sprouts and pine nuts. The last ingredient that I use is a balsamic vinegar glaze. So I'm going to show you how I prepare this. The very first thing I want to point out with this stem is you want to get rid of that stem. of course, you don't want to eat that. You don't want to cook it. But I typically look at the stem and go in about 1/2 inch. And that's where I'm going to make my first cut. And then once I make that cut, it becomes a lot easier to peel away a couple layers of the cabbage or the Brussels sprout leaves. So first cut I'm going to make, took about 1/2 inch off. I'm going to actually scrap that one side. I'm not going to eat that. Now you can actually see into the cabbage and what it looks like. And it's very easy now to just peel away a couple of these layers. So I'm taking away 1, 2, 3, and I'm looking inside. Now this is the test, it really is. When you look inside, do you see any dark spots? Anything that would look like possibly an insect got to it? And I do see a dark spot on this one right here. Might be hard to see on the camera, but I want to get rid of any of that. So now I'm down and I've peeled off about 4 layers of this, and to me it looks very clean. Okay, now I finished chopping this up, and as I mentioned, I usually peel off anywhere from maybe 4, 5, 6 layers of the cabbage or the Brussels sprouts with these, the leaves or the basically the lettuce. And here I am, I'm done. I've got this side. I still have the actual heads of the Brussels sprouts or cabbage. And on this side, I've peeled off. And it actually looks like I've peeled off more than I've got left over. But it's actually good to kind of peel off a couple layers. It looks like you're left with a very small amount, but this is actually a really good amount for either 1 or 2 people. If you're going to have maybe a date and you want to cook for your date, this would probably be a really good option and good portion size where you could have this for about 2 different people. So you guys don't need to watch me sit here and wash these, but basically my method is once I've peeled them, I give them, each one of them, a really good rinse, and I will then put it into a saucer pan or a pan in which I will boil these. You get the water boiling, but really it shouldn't be in here for any more than maybe 3 to 5 minutes. So my water is boiling. You can see it's steaming up. It doesn't mean that these have to be bobbling around, but it's already been in here for about a minute or 2. So I typically will give it 3 to 5 minutes, flash boil it, take it out, and then I put it into the saute pan for it. Now, as far as the sauteing process, I typically will put the Brussels sprouts as a whole cabbage without cutting it up. So I can roll it around a little bit and get the outside crispy and charred. So you may actually see that some of these pieces are already starting to brown up. So I want to get that. While this is happening, while I'm sauteing and kind of charring the outside, here's where I'm going to add in my pine nuts. So pine nuts don't really need to be cooked, but when you put them in here in the pan like this and saute them, kind of releases some of the oils, and it makes them a little more crispy and definitely tastes better after you've sauteed it for a couple minutes. So I'm going to swish this around. Now, this is optional, but one of the things that I like to do during this process is actually cut the Brussels sprouts in half. So they're mostly intact, but I want to cut them in half and now just give a little bit more char to that inside part that I've cut. Okay, I finished the sauteing process. And in some cases, it looks a little charred on some of the pine nuts, but if you take a good look, you'll actually see that the Brussels sprouts have a nice char to them. It leaves them crispy and flavorful. So the last thing I want to do is just top this off with my balsamic vinegar glaze. So as I said before, this is really kind of like a syrup, but you can get this from anywhere. I've said before, I try to buy everything that I get as organic, but you don't have to buy organic if you don't want. But this is kind of what it looks like. It's called a glaze, but if you look closer, it says balsamic vinegar. So when you see this come out, you'll actually kind of see that this is really kind of like almost a syrupy consistency. It's very thick. But I like to drizzle it on, almost like you're drizzling maybe chocolate on ice cream or something like that. Drizzle it on the top. I don't think you can really overdo it, but of course, you know, you don't want to empty the whole bottle on it. But that's pretty much it. So really, my point in this is that this isn't a very hard dish to cook, but Brussels sprouts are something that a lot of people don't cook. They think it's either difficult to cook or it's too long to cook. And also, you know, one thing is some people don't like Brussels sprouts, but cooked correctly, they're actually pretty tasty. So hopefully you guys will give this a shot. Like I said, I really think this is something where you can impress a date or your significant other. So please give it a shot and let me know what you guys think. Let me know if it tastes good, and let me know if this is something that you want to see again.